I'm your host today for our inside look. And I have to tell you, before we jumped into this, I was looking at this opening slide, a no BS preview of the professional speaking world. And I had to sort of laugh because this is the sort of non-glamorous aspect of this work. And I know some of you are following along on the adventures on Instagram and are in the trenches in this work as well. I had a last minute event in Boston on Monday. That's a long flight home back to Austin. Delays, getting off the ground. We get all the way to about 20 minutes into approach to land in Austin. And we had monster storms here. They divert us to Dallas. We land in Dallas. The skies open up. All the flights get shut down. Instantaneously, every rental car is immediately sold out, and just about every single hotel room is booked before I was able to snag one. And so unfortunately, I'm coming to you today, not from our super sweet studio, but from a tiny little hotel room right off the airport, getting ready to go on to Vegas tonight for more events. And of course, I didn't pack for that. And so we're gonna have to do some shopping along the way, or I don't know, wash my dirty socks in the sink or something. But this is the no BS portion of it. It's amazing and can be very fun, but it can also be a grind out here. And it can be quite lonely at times, which is a big part of why we are doing this. What our plan is for today, and just to give you a little context on my journey. Many of you know me, you know my journey. For those of you who that don't, the very short version of that is I started out in management consulting. The firm I worked for did leadership development, culture change, transformation type work. I saw there was this sort of emerging pain point and need around generational tension. The millennials were starting to show up in the workplace, and there was a lot of angst and pain points around that. I started studying the topic. I actually went and apprenticed for two best-selling authors under that subject, which is sort of a unique pathway into this business. And I think reveals a little bit the idea that there are a lot of ways to enter into this business other than maybe just like writing a breakaway best-selling book. I actually went and essentially worked for free for a period of time and studied underneath two best-selling authors, and then started to speak on their platform with their content. They eventually sold that business. And when they did, it gave me a chance to pivot my research and focus of my brand positioning from thinking exclusively about generations into larger future of work trends. And I had just enough, I would call it, momentum in the marketplace, credibility and deep relationships with the bureau channel, which I hope we get into a bit of a discussion today. And if those of you have questions on that, I know a lot of the members that we're building in this community who are getting traction, who are speaking, they're saying to us, the next level for me is really going to be opening up that bureau channel and understanding how to work with them, how to deepen those relationships. And we certainly want to be able to get into that. So it's been about a 10-year run for me. But when COVID hit, like all of us, I think that we're in this, the business got totally crushed. The first 6 weeks, as the lockdown happened, I watched as about 80% of our projected revenue for the year went to zero, and no end in sight. No one knew when it would come back. And we had to have all the hard conversations of, how long can you go without making any money? How can we pivot the business, et cetera? And once the dust settled and we sort of figured out, okay, we're going to be able to make it through, we sort of pivoted to a virtual environment. Many of you operated in that. I was in conversations with Josh Linkner and Peter Sheehan and Ryan Estes, three of the other founding members of ImpactEleven, founding principals. And the conversation we're having was that, I don't want to design this moving forward the same way the business was designed prior to COVID. Like, this is a reset. This is a chance to rethink how we do this. And we're getting a chance, an opportunity to sort of rethink, reimagine, and redesign. And the biggest thing is we did not want to do it alone. It's lonely out here. I'm glad I'm getting to see all of you and we're having this. If I was stuck in here all day, it's hard. You're away from your family. Many of you, we're making this sacrifice in pursuit of the opportunity and the gift to share our content, our messages with the world. And we wouldn't trade it. Otherwise we wouldn't be in this business, but it doesn't mean that that it's not hard. And so in those conversations through COVID, we said, what if we came together and did something together? And that gave us an opportunity to create and launch ImpactEleven. And we decided to expand it beyond just the four of us, Pete, Josh, Ryan, and myself. came together and we're thinking, how can we expand this with the incredible team operating behind the scenes? But we knew number one, we're four straight cisgender white guys, and that offers absolutely zero level of diversity and a representation of the voices that are out there bringing important messages to the world. And we knew that in order to get momentum, to sort of get that initial acceleration, we needed to tap a diverse group of voices that we thought really represent some of the most powerful voices in the world. Certainly, this isn't the only list. We have, I think, an incredible group of, and this will be a term that we will roll out more long-term in the community, of what I would call ambassadors, some of which are on this session right now, who are absolute forces of nature and of themselves. And we're so thrilled and excited that you are a part of this. This sort of collective group of partners really was just meant to serve as a foundational element, pillars, to be able to get this initial velocity going of the overall community that we're building out that is ImpactEleven. But each and every one of you, I know, are going to play huge contributions as this thing grows. Our collective impact of this group of initial members, 126 years of speaking, $125 million of fees earned, close to 10,000 keynotes delivered, 1.6 million books, 4.7 million social media followers, an average keynote fee of 37,000. Why does this matter? For those of you who are maybe just being introduced to us for the very first time, those of you that have been with us for a long time know this, but we say this from a place of humility, but we claim it because I think there are very few people who are in the business, who are true practitioners, especially in the corporate space, operating at this level, doing the work, who have not retired, have not, sort of downshifted and are just in a teaching mode, that are sharing the insights, the formulas, the mechanics, opening up opportunities and relationships with the bureau channel like we are. This is an unbelievable roster. When I look at these, most of these are people that, all of them are people that I look up to, who throughout our career, have just like done unbelievable things, best-selling authors, monster speakers, and every single one of them are people that we can learn from. And so we're sort of claiming, like, if there's a place you want to go with people who are in the trenches doing the work, it's this group. Now, why are we doing it? It is a big question that we get asked a lot. You guys are out, you can, it can't be about money because you make way more money speaking on your own. And it's a combination of, wanting to build community and not be alone and by ourselves, but to also give back. It's all the things that we wish someone would have told us along the way, to help other people who, we can amplify our collective impact on the world if we help support each and every one of you in the ways that you need help and support. For some of you, it's like you have an unbelievable body of knowledge, but you're missing just one little fundamental element. Maybe it's about positioning. Maybe it's about deepening relationships with the bureau channel. Maybe it's one little thing that, like, if we help you unlock that, you go and make huge impacts around the world. And so through you, we get to have a larger impact. And why would we not want to do that? Because we have a deep, deep belief that there is more than enough to go around. Helping everyone on this call and in this larger community does not take away any opportunities from me. I'm gonna get mine. There's more than enough for me. I don't want any more. And so we're not worried about that. Ways in which we can help, and I want to put on your radar, we've got another great boot camp. So you're going to hear us talk about boot camp. This is an inside look into the mechanics of boot camp, which is 2.5 days. Next one coming up 18th through the 20th of September in Detroit. I think we still have a few slots left. We try to keep that somewhat intimate and somewhat contained, so there's not a lot of room left. But there'll be a couple of ways I'll tell you throughout this. If you're interested, even drop in the chat. Matt, who is on here right now, will head up all of those conversations. Shoot Matt a note. I'll put his contact information in there. Connor, perfect. Thank you. And we want to make sure that, before you peel off, you get whatever you need answered on that front. So boot camp, other ways you can work with us, coaching and creative services. There are a number of people who are on here right now who have worked with us for a long time, long-term coaching projects, one-on-one, defining, developing content, keynotes, marketing, websites, video, etc. The idea here is, appreciate that, Scott, that shout out. there are a lot of ways in which we want to help support you wherever you need it in your business. And the last we're so excited about is the community experience. And many of you have been hearing us talk about that. Some of you who were at last boot camp and raised your hand and pre-signed up prior to the launch and the release of community, I can tell you I'm so incredibly excited. We've put so much time and effort, spearheaded by Connor and the team, defining and refining what that experience is going to be. Daily, weekly content experiences. Connor, I don't know if you can turn on your microphone. How many? We built out a content calendar around just about every single theme you can think about relating to the business of speaking. What's that roster look like? What's the list?
Yeah, absolutely. So, breaking it down into, half a dozen different categories spanning from on stage to off stage to business building to the human aspect, the human enrichment aspect of speaking. We've built out a couple hundred different topics that, are all from us. But what I'm most excited about is really drawing in the community and hearing what you guys are looking for, hearing what you're looking for on the platform to really level up your game. So it's really kind of this two-way street that we're excited to add to that roster. It's gonna be great.
Yeah. Love that prompt, Connor, which is a great point along the way, either in the chat, gang, or maybe even send a direct message if you want. If you are already signed up for the community experience and you want to pass along, like, this is what I really hope you guys cover and where I could really use some support. Or if you're curious and you haven't signed up yet, but you want to get that on our radar, please do, because Connor's right. The community, we have a vision for what we want, but ultimately it has to be our collective community. At the end of the day, it's to help you have a bigger impact, faster, bottom line. And like I said, why are we doing this? And this belief, just operating in a principle that there is more than enough to go around, true abundant mindset, which all of the founding partners believed in. Even for the four of us, for years we have competed. Josh, Ryan, Pete, myself, we have competed against each other for years. Pete wins one battle, I win the next year, Josh wins. I just lost a deal this morning. I'm sure Jenny's laughing because Ryan and I were in a fierce battle for an event in January, and freaking Ryan took me down. He won it, and it's just like that is it. But we're cheering for each other. We laugh and support it because there's more than enough to go around, and the numbers speak for themselves. $4 billion as an industry, 100,000 professional speakers. Now, when I look at that number of 100,000 professional speakers, one of my visions for this community and like the people who are tuned in right now is that I want to collectively represent the top 1% of that group. So the top 1,000 thought leaders who are out there on a daily basis, making the world a better place, bringing important thought leadership to the marketplace, and we level each other up and we raise that number. We want to play with the top 1%. And I know if you're on this and you're putting in the work on yourself, you're in that category. 750,000 searches for motivational speaker. None of us really want to be labeled or branded a motivational speaker. But what it says to us is that there is that appetite, and 150,000 paid keynotes per year in the US. I don't know about you. I don't know what each and every one of us on here has a number in our head that we want to hit, number of events. Some of us are crazy and want to do 150. Others, we're like, what, if I did 30, if I did 40, if I did 50 events and I could run my podcast and I could put out great content and research and I could coach a few clients, like maybe the number is 20 for you. The bottom line is whatever that number is, there is more than enough for you to go get. A couple of myth busters for those of you who, and I'll just pause for a brief second, and I want to acknowledge sort of the diversity that we likely have on this call and what the needle we're always trying to thread with our inside look. We may have some of you who are on this call who are thinking about getting into the speaking business. We know that is a part of it. You're curious, you want to explore it, and we're trying to deliver some content to help you understand. And then we know we've got some serious veteran players. We got Smiley, we got David, we got a number of you who are tuned in right now that are like, you're out delivering at very high levels. All of these things. In fact, we're going to be tapping you to teach and share your wisdom with this group. But there are things that you're looking for because we're all looking to level up. And so with our time together on this, we're going to try to sprinkle in a mixture across that gamut. So if you're here and you're like, man, you're just sort of talking about entry-level stuff, It's because we know we've got people in here that are at that level right now who are really just trying to explore it. And so for those of you that are in that category, and you think about true myth busters for this business, is that, number one, this is an easy profession. It's easy to look from the outside of like, just you got a story to tell, you bang around, you do a TEDx, and like you do some talks and you get paid to speak for the hour, and it's pretty cool. And it's like anybody who's in this knows that especially over the long haul, it's a grind. You got to put in the time. You're constantly working on your content. You're constantly working on your marketing. You're constantly working on your delivery. It's not an easy profession. Other myth is the competition is weak. It's absolutely not true. You just look at the quality and caliber of people who are tuned into this right now. And of course, like it's not necessarily even thinking about each other as competition, but it's just knowing that like we all raise each other's game up. You got to bring your A game, because if you don't, the reality is, and it's such a good reminder every time we're out speaking, it's like there is someone who would have taken that slot for free. And so never forget that you got paid. And if you don't deliver at the highest level, I promise you there is someone who would, on their own dime, have gone and delivered and given everything that they have. Success will be immediate. Of course, most of us on here who have been on the grind know that that's absolutely not true. This, like everything, takes time, takes patience, takes practice. You got to put in the work. Talent beats skill. Talent does help. There's some natural ability, there's some natural charisma, some natural IQ and competence that will help you in this. But at the end of the day, this is a skill that can be learned. It can be developed on all fronts, but it takes work. The last one I think that we run into with a lot of our coaching clients who come from industry, right? They were entrepreneurs, they built businesses, they learned a particular trade, they were in consulting, and they were at the top of the game, and they just sort of assume, I built and sold 5 companies, so of course I'm going to be a monster speaker. And it's absolutely not true. There are aspects, some fundamental drivers that drove your success that you can leverage to help make you successful in this. But just because you built and sold 5 businesses does not mean that you're going to be exceptional on the stage at being able to create great learning outcomes for an audience. And so it requires the hard work. The way we think about building this business is a little bit like a prize fighter, and there is no one better than Muhammad Ali. If we think about what made Ali so phenomenal, and this is sort of the way in which we break down and think about the business, is that there were really 3 fundamental elements. Somebody could argue that there were more, but the way we see it, 3 fundamental elements that led to his greatness. And it broke down like this: what we call the promoter, the expert, and the performer. So you think about the promoting aspect of Ali, a fighter, just like a speaker. And in order to be great, you have to be able to get yourself booked. Now, so often in this business, we think, our job is about, delivering and giving great speeches, but you also have to be great at selling speeches. You can be the greatest storyteller and orator on the planet, and if you don't have the ability to get yourself booked, you don't get on the stage. Now, Ryan Estes, who some of you know very well, would argue that he was way better at selling speeches than he was giving speeches in the early days. And that was actually part of what helped him get some momentum. He could get himself on, and his speaking caught up with his ability to sell. And I can tell you, we are all beneficiaries in this community from Ryan Estes' content of selling speeches, because he comes from 25 years in the corporate space of high-level strategic relationship building and selling. No one's better at selling speeches. The expert portion of this, of course, is just deep subject matter expertise, deep domain expertise. I think one of the things that I wouldn't say it bothers me, but that I notice, and I'm sure many of you do too, across social media, is that there are plenty of people who want to speak, who, they read a couple of inspirational quotes and they read a book or 2 over here, and they put together a talk track about themselves, and like they're ready to go be a speaker. And most of us know that, that might get you a little bit of traction, but if you want to play at the highest level, you have to be a deep, deep expert in the subject matter that you have identified. And that area has to be an area where there is a real pain point in the marketplace that you can help solve. It has to be a problem that you can go solve in a unique way. And the last piece of this, the performer. You get yourself on a platform, you've got the content to be able to deliver. And then, of course, in the moment, you've got to be able to create an exceptional performance. There is an art to this. And we'll break down some of the things that we think about when it comes to delivering exceptional experience on the platform that's highly compelling, highly impactful in this day and age of limited attention spans. So to start us off with our time together today, what I want to do is just a little drop down into the expert. And then I'll give you just a high level context around the content at bootcamp that we will cover under the promoter and the performer. But we'll do a little teaching here around the expert. And then once we give that context, I want to make sure that we leave time for Q&A. I don't want to do a bunch of just talking at you. I've already talked enough today. I want to open it up for questions. And we're also going to do, and I'm excited for this, we're going to do 2 hot seats. We've invited 2 of our students who have been working very, very hard on their content alongside us over the past couple of months and years. And we're going to have them deliver a little work that they've been working on. And then I'll invite a couple of members of the ImpactEleven team who are in the trenches coaching and supporting this community to comment, share, give some feedback, give you as a collective group that are tuned in a chance to comment and share as well, and see them and their lessons in action, and then send us off with a little more information on the community and how we can continue to spend time together. So with that, the expert. Let's drop into this. So when we think about the expert, I love this comment. This is a comment that so many of us has heard as we've started this idea of dude, pick a lane. We've all been on the highway before where we see somebody splitting traffic. And in the world of professional speaking, the opportunity here is when we say pick a lane is identifying your core area of subject matter expertise. What is your topic? What is the lane in which you are going to play? You cannot be all things to all people. You can't be over here one day talking about leadership and the next day over here talking about customer service, and then you're talking about innovation and technology. The marketplace is not going to buy or believe that, especially early on. We have to pick an area and double down and be able to brand. In doing so, as we're trying to identify and pick a lane, again, we want to identify a pain point, a problem in the marketplace, and then we want to be able to articulate how we can uniquely solve that problem for people. We call it this idea of finding your sweet spot. And I really do think, and when we invite John and Aaron up, I'd love for them to maybe comment on this too, Connor, if you get a chance to ask them this question. It's just, this is some of the most important work. You can have all the fundamental skills. You can have a passion for speaking. You can have some subject matter expertise. But if you don't know how to define your sweet spot, you don't know how to differentiate and cut through the noise in the marketplace, you can flounder, get stuck, and unfortunately not get the traction that you could otherwise have in your business. So in finding your sweet spot, we think about a couple of brand defining questions. And this is one that I think should keep us all awake at night in just continual pursuit of identifying and refining the way we articulate it. What is the burning problem that you solve? First and foremost, like if we cannot articulate, what is the problem? Sometimes we'll have people that come to us and it's like they have an expertise and a background in let's just call it mindfulness or overall well-being. And that's great. It's awesome. But pressing them in like, okay, cool. But what is the burning problem that we're solving? And who are you solving it for? And then that second component of why you. Okay, so we've identified a major pain point in the marketplace. It is a burning problem that needs to be solved. Why are you the person from everyone else who is perfectly positioned with the right background and expertise to be able to solve that problem for them? And then third, and absolutely not least, is what transformation do you create? In working with you, in experiencing your keynote, in working through your online learning material, your books, your products, your coaching. What is the transformation that you create when someone goes through it? We break this down and think about it in terms of what I would call the absolute ideal pitch, your PCT. If you're in this community, you hear us talk about it all the time. We hammer on it because to me, it's the ultimate exercise in organizing your own sort of thinking to be able to differentiate in the marketplace. Problem, credibility, transformation, the ideal pitch. So how and when do we use this? Once you've crafted this, we can leverage this in just about every single aspect of the business. When you sit down and articulate and craft, what is the big the big burning problem that we're attacking and solving? What is my credibility around it? And then super clear with the transformation. Now that can inform your website. It informs your one sheets. It can inform emails that go out as you're introducing yourself to a potential prospect. You can leverage it in competitive sales opportunities. I guarantee you, and I don't know this for sure because Ryan and I didn't do a debrief, but each one of us did a PCT for the client when we were in our essentially our pitch off. Now, it just so happens to be that Ryan, I think this is a sales audience. I think he delivered a PCT that was within the realm of selling in a complex sales environment. My background in future of work, I sort of made a pitch of like, these are small business owners and they're trying to navigate how to attract and develop and retain great talent at a time when there's 2 job vacancies for every 1 job hunter. And we made our pitches. Ryan won it. But we went into it armed with our PCT, and you can do the same. Now, I'll give you an example, right? And this is actually what we're going to have John Livesey and Aaron Stafford deliver here shortly, is their PCTs. But I'll give you an example of, like, let's just say mine. And honestly, I'm constantly trying to refine my own. I'll give you this, and we could invite David Burkus up there and he could probably smash me with his PCT. Also a future of work expert. I can't see you right now, David, but I hope you're smiling. I say that with love. So if I think about my PCT, here's what I would say. I'm again, my work is under the essentially the future of work. We do one thing. We help leaders prepare for and build the future of work. This is a super dynamic moment in time for the future of work. COVID fundamentally changed us. We are changed as a people. The way we work has changed. The way we create and deliver value for our clients and customers has changed. And as a result, the stakes have never been higher for leaders to make big, bold bets about how they're going to design and structure work in order to attract, retain, and develop the very best talent, and ultimately compete and win in their marketplaces to continue to scale and grow their business. They have to make the right bets about a super dynamic environment moving forward. For the past 15 years, I have worked with category leading brands across just about every single vertical and helping them anticipate disruption, navigate transformation, build organizations and teams that people love to work for and clients love to work with. In doing so, those clients have experienced greater growth, greater productivity, higher levels of engagement across their people, and ultimately future-proofed their organizations in order to win in the decade ahead. Period, full stop. Now, could that be better? Absolutely. But you sort of felt where I was going there, like identifying the problem, super dynamic moment of time for the future of work. Leaders, pressure on leaders, have to make big, bold bets, right? I want them to feel that if you don't get this right, what's it going to cost you? Why me? 15 years in the trenches doing the work. What's the transformation coming out the backside? If you come out of this, and some of you have been with us for a long time, you've done your PCT, my only prompt to you would be, this is a continual moving target. You are continually refining this, continually practicing with it, and see if it works. Use it in your next pitch, use it in your next outreach email, use it in the next time somebody asks you, oh, what do you do? Instead of saying, I'm an author, I'm a speaker. Default to your PCT, define the problem and see how they react to it. This is how we create differentiation in our domain of expertise in a way that helps us win in the marketplace. Here's what else we cover at boot camp under this theme of the expert. We're going to help you think through and develop an expertise development plan template. Like, okay, where you're at this stage in your career, your profession, your body of work, you have a certain level of expertise. How do you expand beyond that? I know we've got some of you who are tuning in. You're like, I've started to develop my thought leadership. How do I do more? Accelerated credibility strategies. If you haven't currently written a book or a bestseller or have 25 years of industry experience, what are the other things you can do to expand your credibility? A content development modality model. So really thinking through, like, how do I develop? Where do I get great stories, case studies, thinking through the content that gets delivered in speeches? The multimodal delivery framework. I love this. This is work that Connor is in the trenches with each one of our coaching clients on that really helps you. I've got 60 minutes of content. What does that need to look like? What are the right stories? What are the right emotions that we want to be pulling upon at different times to move an audience through a story arc? Content criteria checklist, what makes it, what doesn't, and a fast track research model. Couple of examples of things that we teach and go deep in at boot camp under this realm of the expert. I'll pause there for a second under this idea of subject matter expertise and just see if there's any questions. And Connor, does everybody have the ability to talk? Microphones unmuted.
Yeah, absolutely. Feel free to unmute yourself, turn your camera on. I'm happy to spotlight you if you have a question.
Yeah, please feel free to jump in there, or if you just want to drop something in the chat too, that's totally fine. A group of professional speakers, I'm sure there's not too many people who are shy and bashful, but please feel free to write it in there as well. Any questions on the expert front? And if not, that's totally fine, but I want to give a chance to pause. Cool. We'll keep trucking along then. Save all your good, juicy questions for the end. Let me just see what's in the chat here too. David, I mean, I wrote mine at boot camp, so it better be good. Yeah. I don't know, but that was the first stab, and since then it's been a couple of months. My guess is you've probably been refining it. I'd be curious, and David, maybe you'd be willing to share. Have you? And I can't even see you, so I don't know if you're still here or not.
Oh, I'm
Have
here.
you
I'm here.
have you used it in any like, have you used it in any pitches? Has it shown up in any of your marketing material or emails? Have you used it anywhere?
Yeah. So the way that I use it, because I'm trying to work through bureaus more often, et cetera, is I did a sort of Josh and you page with a welcome video and then the session description I'm proposing and all the details, and I make that for the bureaus. And so that video is basically the PCT, right? The only thing I do, because I'm a little goofy, is I try and also find some like weird self-deprecating joke I can throw in there too. Like,
Yep.
I just did one I could probably put the link in there for you if you want, for the Associated Grocery Wholesalers, something or other. And I talked about how my first job ever was a bag boy, and then I was a cashier, and what it was beautiful. And then went into the PCT, right? So a little bit of personal,
amazing
joke, and then PCT.
I love that. Everybody who's tuned in, like that right there, that one insight could make you six figures in the next 12 months. Because what is David talking about there? For those of you who maybe aren't already using it, it's like, when you're in competitive situations or you're introducing yourself to a bureau, you're up, you've got a hold for a potential, doing one of these videos, even building out a little landing page for it to live on, introducing yourself, to David's point. And it's like ingratiating yourself, a little self-deprecation, a little bit of humor, make the connection to them in their industry, right? That likability factor. We talk about that a lot, of like, that counts for something. Now you instantaneously like David, and it's like, oh my gosh, he was a bag boy. Like, he understands us. Then he goes into the PCT and you're like, not only do I like this guy, he's also really smart and he understands. He's got a unique pulse on what's happening in this vertical right now. Boom, you advance yourself to the top of the list. That is a phenomenal strategy. Thanks for sharing that, David. So those are great examples, gang. Something to think about. Something as simple as PCT. How you can leverage it. Let me just drop in here and see what I'm reading here. James, how important is doing a lot of research? How do you conduct your own research, develop your own data, mine from others? It's a great question. I mean, some of that, James, I think depends a little bit on your subject matter that that you've carved out for yourself. Obviously for me right now, the future of work, and for David as well, and for a number of you that are tuned in, Smiley as well, all of his work around the theme of belonging, it's super dynamic right now. I mean, if you are referencing data points from December of 2021, it's old news. Like, it might not be relevant, which is really crazy. Like, so we're looking in this space. It's like people need to know, like, what is happening now? What is the latest? And so there is a little bit of pressure to like stay on top of just even a general pulse. Are there universal themes that stay consistent throughout? Of course there are, but it definitely feels a little bit more dynamic, and we can use that to our advantage from a competitive standpoint. James, you might be in a vertical or space subject matter expertise where it's not evolving quite as much. You take something like leadership. There's tried and true principles of leadership, no doubt. All you might be doing is saying, oh, you know what? I can take my tried and true as an example. This might not be for you, James. Key pillars and themes of leadership, but I am looking for relevant real world case study examples of how I see those themes unfolding in today's environment so that I could reference a new story for a timeless insight or tip that I deliver to someone. Everybody has their own, I think, sort of approach to this. What my recommendation is, and what I want everyone in the ImpactEleven community is, if we're going to default to one side or the other, we default to doing more research than the competition. We default to knowing more about the industries that we speak in, even at a high level. David's not an expert in the grocery business, but guess what? Can he do enough research at a high level to understand 3 or 4 of the big themes impacting the grocery industry and then apply his knowledge to it? Absolutely. Yesterday, I spoke to essentially it was a group of people who are in procurement for government institutions at the state level, city level, federal level. How I started off the program was talking about the 3 big challenges that they're confronting in their space: supply chain issues, talent, and the role is getting exponentially more complex. I knew that from doing a little bit of research, and just referencing those 3 things immediately made that audience lean in and be like, I didn't claim to be an expert, but I knew enough about them to buy some credibility, James. And so I would push us to a place of more research. And Ryan, it's awesome to see your name pop up here, brother. Hope you're doing well. Let me see what this is. Curious as it relates to marketing. Do you talk through website development, staff structure? Should I hire a marketing expert, PR firm? And no worries on the microphone. Yes, 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 and yes. At boot camp. In fact, our chief marketing officer, Sarah Smith, who is on this call and will be chiming in, does a whole section around marketing and helping people think through. In fact, that is one of the things, and maybe Connor, I'll just let you react to that for a second too, because under our creative services banner, we are building out relationships with a phenomenal community of vendors across all aspects of the business, including the marketing side, to help you support you in knocking those things out. And Connor, I don't know if maybe you have a thought or two to just sort of add to what we've built on that front.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Seth. Yeah, so from a high-level creative services side, of course, happy to dive into the weeds offline. But from a high level, we have built out an entire vendor network that has a number of resources from website development partners at varying levels. If you want a scrappy website, you want a mid-level website, we're happy to do that in-house. We can attack that, a week sprint. If you want something a bit more robust, kind of, that agency level grade website, we have a number of partners out there that we can recommend. Same thing on the podcast side of things, same thing on copywriting, so on and so forth. So happy to feel free to shoot me a note, Ryan. I'll drop my email in the chat. Happy to chat more about it. But we've got a number of resources to help you out with, whether it's with us or a number of our other partners.
Beautiful. All right, let's just for the sake of time, let's continue to move on. So number 2, we're going to talk about the promoter, and I'm just going to give you one big idea on the promoter and the performer. And the big idea under the promoter goes back to this idea of part of your job as a pro speaker is not just about giving speeches, it's also about selling speeches. And in selling speeches, the question becomes, how do you go win business, especially early on? How do you go compete and get more than your fair share? And this to me is a fundamental key insight, the idea of start where you can win, not where you want to end. And here's what we mean by this, particularly when it comes to your area of expertise, your positioning. You want to start narrow, and you want to start in an area that you feel like you have the absolute most credibility before you start to go wide and expand and talk about X number of things that maybe you're capable of. And I'll give you a specific example to bring that to life. So take how I started in my career. At 25, 26, 27 years of age, what did I know? I didn't know a whole lot about building massive businesses, leading, enterprise level organizations, but I was in the trenches understanding how our clients were dealing with this tension of young people. And I was also a representation and a member of this generation. And I had access to research as to how we were bubbling, how we were showing up. And so I knew that I wanted to speak. I knew that I wanted to bring a message to the world, to advise, consult, but I could have picked a number of topics. I couldn't come out of the gate under the theme of like large scale organizational transformation. I had to start narrow. Where could I win? I could win on the topic of generations. I could win specifically on the topic, even more specifically, of millennials, Gen Y at that time. I was a representation of it. I knew enough to be dangerous. And I went to work for a firm that specialized in that. I built credibility there. And then when I launched beyond that, I was able to expand into where I really wanted to go. I didn't want to exclusively talk about generations forever. And I know some of you, Ryan, I don't know exactly where you're at right now with your subject matter expertise and content, but I think, for you, it was like starting out in the career space, helping, kids coming out of high school, out of college, and like, how do you like launch? And it was like, that was an area that you knew, you were a representation of that. And once you built credibility there and you built an audience, you earned the right to expand beyond that. We will go deeper into that idea, but leave here thinking, where can I win now? Not where I want to end. You don't have to be pigeonholed into that position forever. What else are we going to talk about at boot camp? We'll talk about the latest research on what meeting planners want and why they buy. I think this is a couple of some of the unbelievable value and where we differentiate maybe from other platforms out there helping people break into this business. I think it's September. We're going to have, I don't know, a half a dozen, maybe more bureau partners in the room. Either bureau partners or planners. We're constantly getting them both in person as well as we have access to, because we're conducting and helping support it in the industry as to what buyers want and need. So we have access to data primary research that no one else has seen. And then at bootcamp, you're getting to meet, interact with, mingle, and hear from in first person. Bureaus talk about, why do they book certain people and not others? What do they look for when they're first being introduced to someone? What are the emerging topics and themes that they think have the most opportunity for growth in the years ahead? You can't pay for that level of access, and you can't find it anywhere else. Bundled value tactics to boost close rates. How do you package things up? Optimal approaches to bureau relationships. It's so delicate. They get blown up every single day. Trying to cut through that noise, it takes a very, very specific strategy. And even then, getting on a bureau website, and I know there are a number of you on this who know that it's like, just because you're on a bureau website really actually doesn't mean anything. Doesn't mean you're going to get booked. Doesn't mean that anybody at that bureau knows you. How do you go from being on the website to being in the back of the biggest agents' minds? Or for those of you who are following me on social this weekend, this idea of like, what do you have to do to get yourself in a position that when a bureau agent has a speaker go down and they have an hour to send out the SOS, put the bat signal out, who do they reach out to? How do you get yourself on that list? And I say that with total humility. I know I was not the only person that got reached out to. I guarantee I wasn't the first person who got reached out to. But the point is, I was on the list. And that, to me, it really is the whole game, because being on that list was the culmination of 10 or 12 years of delivering for that particular agent, year over year, consistently, never letting them down. What do you do to be able to be on the list? Dissection of the buying process, DNA of successful speaker brands. That, to me, is a fascinating subject matter and area of the programming, just like looking at beautiful, great speaker brands. What have they done? Brand blueprint. Our CMO, Sarah, is going to break some of those down. The 7 must-have marketing assets. Ryan, to your point, we'll get into those marketing budget templates, etc. The performer. One big insight here on the performer. And this is, I think about, if there's, other than the PCT, if there's one thing I hope everybody takes away from this, it literally comes down to this statement right here. The best way to get booked is to freaking crush the bookings that you have. Period, full stop. All of the marketing techniques, all of the writing, all of the sales strategies, all of that, those things are important and we have to do them. But your greatest opportunity to generate a sold out calendar for you, whatever that sold out means, maybe it's 40, maybe it's 100, is to absolutely smash your opportunities every time you are given. And here's the challenge. So many of us, and I over the years have absolutely had phases where you step off the stage, you get up, even if you were in front of 10 people or freaking 10,000, and the planner and the audience, they clap, everybody clapped, and they said, that was so great. Thank you so much. And then nothing. It's not enough to deliver and have it be a good or even quote unquote great experience. We have to be in pursuit of a level of exceptionality that someone says, I need that in my organization. I need, when they go sit on their committee of the association that they're a part of, 18 months later, and someone asks for a request of speakers for next year's annual event. You were so remarkable. And that word remarkable, let's just call that out. One of Ryan Estes, one of my favorite quotes from him. Remarkable essentially meaning worthy of being remarked upon. Can you show up in such a way that 18 months later, they were not able to forget about what you did and they put your name forward? That is the game. To simply have a satisfied client, someone clapped, someone said you did a good job, it's not enough if we want to be able to have long-term success. And so holding ourselves to a higher level of standard, like, you know what? Yeah, I've done a pretty good job. Nobody's complained. We didn't hang any zeros, no duds. It's not enough. My thermometer on this is like, I want to deliver at such a level that before I step off stage, Jenny on our team gets an email from someone asking about availability. Now, that's a tall order. Do I always pull it off? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But that's what I'm in pursuit of. That's the level I want it to be at. That's what I want you walking away from. At boot camp, we'll go into the 5 elements of a compelling storytelling insights, optimal keynote structure, right? For those of you who've got great insight, but it's like something, and sometimes this is what it is. When Connor is interacting and working with our extended client coaching clients, it's like, you've got great content, great data, but something's off. Sometimes it's just the structure and the flow. Keynote mechanic, right? All of the performance aspects, choreography, vocal range, emotional transfer, gesture, speed, cadence, rhythm, posture. How do you go up there in a way that feels authentic to you, right? Even if you look at Ryan, Pete, Josh, myself, we're all very different presenters, similar in some ways, totally different in others. And none of us can try to emulate or be like the other one. It's just like, you have to be you. You need to deliver. Smiley has to deliver in the way that Smiley is hardwired for, in his most authentic version. And that will resonate and connect with clients. I can't replicate that, and vice versa. 8 strategies to boost your likability factor. David gave a great example of like that. It's just a beautiful, perfect example of like the self-deprecation, the humility, the referencing, I was a bag boy in the industry. Your likability immediately goes up. 10 danger traps, the speaker launch plan template, and a master checklist. The bottom line is we want you rolling out of there. Again, especially if you're a little bit earlier in your career, you have the formula in front of you. And if you've been on the journey, you're on the path, there's some of you, Ryan, I'd put you in this camp. It's like, you've been doing this a long time. You're like me. And so then a part of the challenge is like, how do you sustain it? Like, you've been doing it for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. How do we stay relevant? How do we keep reinventing? How do we keep doing all the little things so that we can keep this thing going? It's one thing to get in the game. It's another to be able to stay on the ride and keep it going. So to round it out, promoter, expert, performer, at boot camp, we'll go deep into all 3. Let's do this. Speaker showcase time. So we got a little bit of time here, and I'm excited for this. And I think what we're going to start out with, again, the idea, here's the sort of the tee up in the prompt. We go back to the PCT, crafting the ideal pitch. And I'm going to invite our panel of esteemed experts to join me. I can grab a coffee here and y'all can stop hearing me yammer for a minute. And I'm going to invite Jordan Brode, our CEO, to join us. I'm going to ask Jenny DeRosta, our VP of Speaker Operations, Sarah Smith, our CMO, and of course, Connor Trombley, our VP of Product and Community, to serve as our expert panel to give a little bit of feedback to our 2 hot seat contestants. And the first one that will be up, and then Connor, maybe I'll toss to you to just sort of quarterback and lead this with the team, is Aaron Stafford. Hunter, over to you.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much, Seth. And I'm just going to see if I can spotlight Erin here so we can get her up on stage. Awesome. Hey, Erin, how's it going? Cool. Before we dive in, just a couple of logistical items. Erin, we're going to have you run through your PCT from start to finish once through, and then we're actually going to go section by section. It's going to help me and the rest of the panel here give you really direct and specific methodical feedback by section of P, problem, C, credibility, and T, transformation. So we'll let you take the stage here, and we might run it through a couple of times. Jenny or Sarah or Jordan, myself might say, hey, Erin, can we hear transformation one more time? So we'll kind of play a little jazz here as we go through, but why don't you take it away with a quick run through to get us started.
Okay, I'm excited. I was telling the guys earlier, I've been using one, and of course I was tweaking it before this, and I'm like, I may have made it worse, so we'll see. Okay, so the disruption and the devastation that our world has endured over the last couple of years has fundamentally changed us. People are exhausted, they're disillusioned, and they're burnt out. They're resigning, they're quietly quitting, or simply reevaluating their priorities and their relationship with work. And in turn, organizations are suffering. They're losing staff in droves and struggling to engage and motivate a remote workforce while navigating the complexities of this new climate. I have spent my entire 20-year career working with iconic global brands and some of the world's highest achievers, and have interviewed dozens and dozens of them and have interviewed dozens and dozens of other peak performers from all different industries in my research to crack the burnout code. I've boiled down their decades of experience and combine it with my own raw burnout story from helping to lead the largest deployment of healthcare personnel in history to give audiences 5 key mindset shifts and simple, easy to implement tips and tactics to prevent and overcome burnout. They can take them back to their home or organization and implement them today to see results quickly. I breathe new life into audiences and help them feel seen and heard and understood. They leave with practical tools to avoid burnout and sustain peak performance, as well as renewed hope, energy, and excitement, not only for their work, but their lives.
Well, first off, Erin, quick round of applause. That was freaking great. Yeah. Nice wow. Work. Thanks for stepping up and taking the first stab there. That was awesome. Let's head back to the problem. Let's read through that once, and then we'll open it up to the group for feedback.
Okay, so the disruption, I'm going to say this with a little less emphasis this time, but the disruption and devastation our world has endured in the last couple of years has fundamentally changed us. People are exhausted, disillusioned, and burnt out. They're resigning, quietly quitting, or simply reevaluating their priorities and their relationship with work. And in turn, organizations are suffering. They're losing staff in droves and struggling to engage and motivate a remote workforce while navigating the complexities of this new climate.
Yeah, very good. Well, I'll kick off some feedback here. On the positive side, I thought your combo of life and business on the problem was quite good. Of how does this affect someone outside of the office as well as inside? Very, very good. On the constructive feedback side, I think there might be some opportunity to level up the kind of the dark future state of the organization. We specifically call out that they are suffering. They are, feeling this burnout from internally. But what happens 6 or 12 months from now? I feel like we can really paint that dark picture a little bit more come from a visceral angle. But overall,
like
I thought
if you don't fix this is going to happen.
Correct.
Oh, on the overarching part of it too, I like that you've contextualized it into this macro climate and how we show up as individuals, as human beings at that personal level has the ability to drive change. And I think that that's part of where we see those convergence of tensions. I 100% agree with Connor. And I think we're seeing a lot of this, and maybe some of the other folks on the call who are working through this process themselves can relate, that there's a lot of gloom and doom out there. And a lot of folks are, I think, teeing up how they're able to solve the problem in a way that doesn't feel new or unique. Like it doesn't, and I mean this with all the respect in the world, like it doesn't take a brain surgeon or a genius or a thought leader or an expert to like call out like times are tough, you know. And I think part of what will really set you apart is presenting your own unique take on what that problem is. So it's not just like, you know, disruption, disillusion, and burnout, but it's like your own insight. And I think it gives you the opportunity to soft walk your credibility and tie those stories together by sharing your unique take on what you see as the overarching dilemma facing both individuals and organizations at large.
I love that.
Great feedback.
I agree with all.
Me?
Oh, go ahead, Jenny.
I think we're all probably on the same page. I was just going to add, in regard to the darkness of the current times, one thing to contemplate is that there are clients who may be in dire straits, but they're also not really willing to admit it. So you want to make sure that a variety of clients see themselves in that PCT and find reason to get in touch with you. So I think lightening it up a bit there will help. And then the other thing I just wanted to compliment is, Seth mentioned it earlier, is staying current, and that you reference quiet quitting, which is obviously something new that people are talking about. You got that in there, and I think that is great. People
that was a new addition. That was a new addition. I appreciate it.
For sure.
So I agree with all this. One of my comments was on quiet quitting. I was actually so I know what that is as of like a few days ago now. Maybe I'm not as current as I need to be. So my question for that is, I think it's great that it's timely. I wonder what percentage of a broader audience knows what that is, and does it need a 3 or 4, a word definition of?
I actually think it's kind of interesting if audiences might not know about it. You're presenting that thought leadership, and it's an invitation to learn more.
You could say, are doing something actually called quiet quitting. Like you could almost like, for those that know it or don't know it, you kind of stay it that way. The other thing I'd add, I don't know, and I'll say this later on again when we get to the T part of it. I don't know, there may be a cool stat you can include in here. And, you could say something like, in fact, it's so bad that, 82% of workers, according to Gallup, according to Harvard, whatever, report that. I don't know what it is, but there might be a good number that you could state in there that sort of, it's not just descriptive about how bad it is, but there's actually some science behind it. Yeah. Other than that, I thought it was fabulous. If you made none of those changes, it was really good, Erin.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Excellent. Well, let's keep rolling, Erin. Let's transition to the credibility piece.
So the credibility, I already know you guys are going to come back and say something, because I have a credibility section, but then I include one more piece of credibility in the transformation. So I don't know if I'm muddling it up by doing that. I'll let you tell me. So I've spent my entire 20-year career working with iconic global brands and some of the world's highest achievers, and have interviewed dozens and dozens of other peak performers from all different industries in my research to crack the burnout code. And then, so that's technically my credibility. But then later in the next sentence, I say I boil down their decades of experience and combine it with my own raw burnout story, from helping to lead the largest deployment of healthcare personnel in history to blah, 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 blah. So I don't know if I just need to make that more succinct and like reword that so that healthcare deployment thing goes up there, or we cancel it or whatever. I'm open to your feedback.
Yeah. Great thoughts.
I'll give you my opinion. I'm sure.
Go ahead, Jordan.
I think it's fine that way. I don't think it's bad that it creeps in the other one. I mean, the PCT, methodology, like we know, hey, you snuck outside of it, but the audience, the people you're talking to have no idea. So I think it goes together. It flows nicely, and no changes there. One thought I thought of, when you talk about iconic global brands, I don't know if it's worth it or if you're comfortable doing it. If there's a couple or 3 iconic global brands you're comfortable just throwing out there, that can add a lot of credibility to the work.
Great point. Let's switch it up. Jenny, what do you got?
I would say, in terms of the credibility and the names of the organizations, for me, it depends on who you're sharing your PCT with, because there are times where you do want to name drop and other times where being a bit more broad also works. So it depends on where you're deploying this. The credibility with actual names connected to iconic brands, super helpful. But
or
sometimes you want to make
brands based on who you're talking to.
That's what I was going to say.
Yes. Try to think of who you're talking to and how they connect to it and how it's relatable. I think it's most important that they see you through this. So I like that you led with the research before going into how you yourself have worked with these within healthcare. And I think that's helpful because you're showing that you're not just coming in saying, hey, I do this myself. You're talking to others, you're sourcing additional data points, and that gives you the added credibility as well.
Great stuff, Jenny. Sarah?
Yeah, I would chime in on that as well, because, and first of all, I think this was fabulous. So at this level, and maybe other folks can relate to this too. Like we're just scraping the microscope, right?
I'm like, bring it on. I want it all. Anything I can do to make it better.
Yeah, I think the way that you lead with I think actually dampens your credibility. And what I would suggest as an alternative is leading with the work, the methodology, and the process. So it's not necessarily just like, I worked on all these iconic global brands. It's like, from the methodologies or from the work or, being in the trenches or something, I think that shows that there's mineable, extractable insights and learnings, and that work is actionable is stronger than an I in this case.
I love that. That's a great idea. Thank you.
Great feedback, Sarah. I'll bring us home on the credibility piece. For me, I'd totally agree with that, what Jordan, Jenny, and Sarah said. I might just share a heuristic here. I'm always trying to make this particular credibility section the shortest of the three. And so one of the exercises that I do all the time is not so much that it has to be one sentence, but I try and pack the credibility into one sentence just to see what are those most important words? What are those most important credibility pieces that just can't be left out, that reinforce the message, that reinforce the through line, the key theme that you and only you own. I might try that and then see how that kind of plays out. What might get left to the side and what is a must-have to include to reinforce your theme.
Yeah. Good feedback. It's always harder to say less than say more, right?
That it does. Awesome. Let's keep rolling into transformation.
Okay, so I'll just read this whole paragraph again because it kind of, the credibility's in there. So I boiled down their decades of experience and combine it with my own raw burnout story from helping to lead the largest deployment of healthcare personnel in history to give audiences 5 key mindset shifts and simple, easy to implement tips and tactics to prevent and overcome burnout. They can take them back to their home or organization and implement them today to see results quickly. I breathe new life into audiences and help them feel seen, heard, and understood. They leave with practical tools to avoid burnout and to sustain peak performance, as well as renewed hope, energy, and excitement for not only their work, but their lives. I could probably make this much more succinct.
Yeah, you hit a lot there. And, the one piece of feedback that I would share is this is very focused on the individual, which is awesome. And that may be the specific focus that we want for a particular audience. But as you think about your multiple PCTs or your customized PCT based on the audience, maybe you have one for the individual. Maybe you have one that's focused on the team. Maybe you have another one that's focused on the organization. Of course you do.
Yeah,
absolutely. So, and how does that?
I do, just depending on, what the group is or what they want to hear. I'll lead with teams or groups or organizations or individuals. I was making this one like a little bit of everything just for the chat.
Totally hear you. Yeah. And it's awesome what you have on the page, but thinking about, who that target person or team or organization is, and then, the shift in impact, because I think they get a bit more broad when you get into the organizational level, and to some of the things that you mentioned here for the individual are more so day to day. How is this affecting their emotion and their productivity and things? All great. But to your point, Erin, having a couple of different PCTs is always super valuable.
Yeah.
I'll throw it over to Sarah. What do you got?
So I'm going to laser focus in on quickly. Can you read that sentence again about getting results quickly?
They can take them back to their home or organization and implement them today to see results quickly.
Yeah. So I think there's so much more there. Like quickly is important, but I think it's to see results and to really lean into what those outcomes are. So it's deeper connections, better relationships, higher performance, like whatever that level of specificity is. Because I think I'm like, okay, but quickly, like what is the emotion? And I think that's a really important piece of that equation too, is tapping into that emotional mindset and need state. That's not just about quickly, but it's about there's so much more depth. And I think you can really lean into that.
Love that.
Nice work.
Yeah, I think
Jenny,
that's good.
oh, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. I would say I think that's right, Sarah. And I think it's the powerful combination of, sort of an immediate impact. Like they walk out of the room, they're doing things differently. The audience members are making different choices, and it's specific change that happens like that day, the next day, that week. And at the same time, long lasting impact that not only does it make a difference immediately, 3 years later, they're making different decisions in their lives and their businesses, teams, organizations as a result of seeing Aaron come on stage and speak. And if you can, that's a lot to get into a sentence or two, but if you can kind of if we wordsmith it and craft it and take the time, that checks a lot of boxes.
You can start long and slowly make it smaller.
Absolutely.
I'm going to just sort of pile on. It's the same good feelings, but definitely offer those takeaways. That does help you close the deal a lot of the time. If you can explain to a client exactly what they're going to experience and feel and how it's going to improve their business, that's how they get their CFOs to sign off on their speakers. Yeah. And the other thing I just wanted to say is, especially the first time you read through the whole thing, you have a really great energy about you that feels reassuring in that you are the person who should come in to help with all of these problems. So I think ensuring that it's just that you are seen in the way that you're sharing your PCT and you're pitching yourself to a client will really help, because these are clients who are in a position where they do need that help from you, and they need to feel like you're the one who's going to see them through it. And I could sense that.
I appreciate that. I actually have another line when I do like my little videos for bureaus and stuff. My closing line is, I would love to bring my energy, enthusiasm, and this message to your leadership conference in Idaho, or like fill in the blank, but I have like that because I am super high energy and energetic. And I want to make sure that they know that that's what they're going to get when they get me as well. When I come on stage, you're going to have this much energy and excitement and enthusiasm from me. Awesome. So thank you guys. This was super helpful. I'm going to listen to this recording and furiously take notes and make it all better. So thank you. Appreciate the insight.
Yeah. Thanks, Aaron. Really appreciate the contribution and sharing that. Takes a lot of courage. So thank you for the time. We're going to bring up our next guest, John Livesay, to the stage. I'm going to spotlight John, and he is on stage now. Hey, John, how are you?
Hey, everybody. That was great. I learned a lot. Thanks, Aaron.
That's awesome.
Oh, I can add this. I can edit this on the fly.
There you go. Awesome, John. Well, we're going to take the same approach. Let's read through it once, and then we're going to go section by section. I do want to say we are getting a little tight on time. I want to be respectful of everyone's schedule today. We got about 20 minutes. We'll kind of keep this to around 10, 12 minutes. So we have some time for some ending thoughts from Seth. Over to you, John.
Many sales teams and tech and healthcare companies like Olympus Medical and Bausch & Lomb struggle not to feel like they're drowning in a sea of sameness. When they pitch to win new business, they're pushing out a bunch of facts that nobody remembers, and they end up coming in second place. They're on this self-esteem roller coaster where they feel good if things are good and bad if they're not. I know what that feels like because I used to be on it. Having won Salesperson of the Year at Condé Nast and written 4 books on the power of storytelling as a sales tool, my keynote is this ideal combination of actionable takeaways and inspiration that leads to sales teams to win more sales. And after working with me, the sales teams start winning business without feeling pushy, and storytelling becomes part of their culture. They not only win the new business, but they start tugging at heartstrings, which gets people to open the purse strings. And the team that works with me becomes the one that tells the best story and gets the sale. And they literally become revenue rock stars.
Nice work, John. Quick round of applause. Very good. Very good. Let's head back up to the problem. Let's read through that real quick, and then we'll do a quick round robin.
I specifically put in a couple of names based on the feedback from Aaron. Many sales teams in tech and healthcare, like those at Olympus Medical and Bausch & Lomb, struggle not to feel like they're drowning in a sea of sameness. When they pitch to win new business, they're pushing out facts that nobody remembers, and they come in second place. They're on a self-esteem roller coaster of feeling up and down based on whether they win or not. I know what that feels like because I used to be on it.
Yeah. So just kicking us off here, I love the different adjectives and the picture that you're painting for the audience, this roller coaster, emotional roller coaster, the sea of sameness, they're very descriptive words. Where I'm going to take my feedback, the constructive feedback here, John, is I would love to see a fluctuation in your tone and your specific emotion. Throughout the entire thing, I could see that you're excited. I could see you're bringing the energy, but you were kind of smiling the entire time. And your tone was high and your energy was high, where there were points that were a bit darker. And there was, some depression and there was some dark moments within that problem statement. I really want to hit home on that for the audience to really drive it into their gut and their heart and their head that, they're feeling these things and they need to be fixed.
Got it.
Sarah, let's jump over you.
I'll double click on that too, because having worked in advertising for so long, sea of sameness is like, coursing through my veins. But I think that where you can win is unpacking that sea of sameness and talking about it. So like sea of sameness leads to or forgettable brand moments, or, stories that don't stick, or whatever that challenge is. And I would go into that just in a little bit greater detail, because I think it frames the problem in a ways that these clients can see that they're facing, where sea of sameness feels like something I understand and can relate to, but maybe a little bit more surface level than what you're capable of, and how the pitch whisper and storytelling based sales can really solve that problem.
Yep. Great. The big one is you're just seen as a commodity.
Right.
If you don't have anything that's
exactly.
That's what I usually get into. Mm-hmm.
I think I just add to what
Go ahead.
both Connor and Sarah
every time,
said. Every time. Don't mess it up. Every time. You and me. I want to feel that you're a storyteller from the start. And so part of that is feeling the emotion as you speak, and it is unpacking things a bit more specifically. Because if you are the one who's going to teach people to pitch themselves in a way that is better and more intriguing and hooks people, I want to feel that from the onset with you.
Okay.
And I think I need a bit more of it.
Got it.
Mine was similar to Sarah on the sea of sameness. I think it needs some definition that would add to it. I would even question whether there's another term that isn't as commonly used that kind of stands out and really gets the listener's attention, where they go, oh, wow, that's really interesting. I'm afraid that sea of sameness, I don't think it's bad, but I'm afraid that sea of sameness kind of feels sea of sameness, like they've heard this kind of thing before.
Well, that's a big part of my brand as a former lifeguard. It's the subtitle to my book. So
Sure.
I'm double down on that.
That's true. Yeah, there's some balance there. Yeah.
Awesome. Very good, John. Let's roll into credibility.
I've got it down to one sentence. Having won Salesperson of the Year at Condé Nast and written 4 books on the power of storytelling as a sales tool, my keynote is the perfect combination of inspiring and actionable takeaways to get sales teams to win more sales.
That's awesome. Switch it up. Back to you, Jordan. Start us off.
Yeah, I think it's good. I mean, the fact that it's that short is really powerful. I don't know that I have a substantive change that I would make. Really, I think it's good. I'd leave it.
Like, thanks.
I would like micro nuance it, and that it's close more deals and maybe lean a little bit into the growth territory. But again, I'm with Jordan. Like it's strong, it's solid. You're leaning into concision in a way that's powerful, and all of those are working for you. But yeah, maybe it's a little bit more outcomes focused with closing deals and enjoying exponential growth or something to that effect.
Yeah, our tendency is to make the C the longest part of the whole thing, when in fact it should be the shortest. So you've got it.
Okay.
I co-sign what these two have said so far. The only addition I would make is, as we were saying to Aaron earlier, if you were speaking to a specific client and you knew there was a name to drop that would work,
Yep.
that's your spot. But otherwise, I like it. It's tight.
Okay.
Agree. Yeah, I would just reinforce those points. One thing that I might think about, and especially for everyone else on the call, is, what's the one thing that only you can promote, say, have done, really kind of passing the competitive swap test. And this you can really kind of overlay into your P, your C, and your T of things that if you were to take John's name off or your name off of your PCT, would anyone else just be able to slap their name on the top of it and kind of, get by and no one would know? And so that's a great kind of heuristic and activity to do as you're trying to plus this up, is do the competitive swap test. But John, I thought your C was excellent. Let's roll into your transformation.
After working with me, sales teams win without feeling pushy, and storytelling becomes part of their culture. When this happens, they not only win new business, but do it by tugging at heartstrings that get people to open purse strings. The team becomes the one that tells the best story and wins the sale. They literally become revenue rock stars.
I'll just jump in. I think it's really strong, John. If there's a way to quantify it, like at all with a number, like as a result of, after hearing me speak, as a result of the work I've done with these clients, whatever it is, we've seen this somehow numerical impact in dollars, percentage, closing rates, whatever it is with the clients, people I work with, that would be fantastic.
Great. One of my favorite quotes from a client is, "We won 3 new pitches right in a row instead of coming in second after working with you."
Oh,
Great.
that's great.
Something along those lines definitely helps.
Okay.
Sarah, anything to add?
I think in this one, I would actually try to go a little bit tighter with the language. I think
right.
that,
Okay.
yeah, I think that there's a little bit of a dance there that to pack a punch, that I would say, each sentence needs to be its own kind of finite and pithy descriptor, so that it's almost like the 1-2 punch of storytelling selling. So,
Mhm. Okay.
yeah.
I love the word pithy.
And as you're looking at that, John, we kind of chatted about this with Aaron, of this balance between these tangible, specific business outcomes, and then also the emotional impact that it has on the audience as well as the organization. And you kind of blend the line there, but really kind of thinking, to Sarah's point, of really dissecting word by word. Do we have an even balance? Do we want to sway in one way or the other based on who we're chatting with? But overall, I would say, just from a high level view, very, very good, John. Quick round of applause for John as
Thanks,
we
everybody.
thank him
Well
once
done.
again for sharing his PCT. Really appreciate it, John. Of course, John's a huge supporter of the community that Seth is about to chat about. Thanks again, John.
Thanks.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah,
John.
thanks, John, and thanks
Aaron.
again for the support and the feedback. Phenomenal. So this is definitely something I think I want us to do more of with these inside looks. And so everybody that tuned in today, if you start to work on your PCT, every month we're doing inside looks. The next one that we do, if you want to raise your hand and say, "Hey, I'd love to get a little feedback on mine," send us a note, because we'd love to be able to give that to you. So when you sort of break down and think about ways in which we can help supercharge your business, again, this is acknowledging that some of you already have phenomenal businesses, and it's like, what's just the little thing you need to put rocket fuel in it? It really breaks down into 4 categories. Boot camps are live in-person events. Next one, like we've been talking about, in Detroit in September. The final one for 2022 is going to be in Austin, Texas in December, and will be an absolute blast. So if you can't do Detroit, nothing wrong with Detroit in September. That'll be a good time, but I think Austin could be an absolute blast as well. Personal one-on-one coaching. Both John and Aaron have been on the receiving end of that work. And I think, look, the proof is in the pudding. Like, it shows. You could tell they've worked hard. That didn't just magically happen. And it pays off, and you can see it. The creative services front, Connor gave a little rundown on the network of vendors that we're building out, that things that we can do in-house, but then also that we've built phenomenal partnerships with to get you the best prices to build out everything you need. And then last but not least, the community aspect. And so as we close out, we'll give a little plug for both boot camp coming up. Again, 2 days, limited to 35. I think we're almost right there. So if anybody who's tuned in today and you really want to go, we can make an exception, but we want to try to keep this between 35 to 40, absolutely tops. Interactive, actionable, just a call out to David. We so appreciate, at last boot camp in Detroit, your feedback was so helpful for us in some of the adjustments that we made on the fly and that have gone into this next one to make this all that more impactful. So thank you for that. There'll be opportunities there again to join the community. We will have buyers in the room. I know for some of you, that's the biggest thing. It's like, a lot of the content that we're teaching, you're there, you want to be able to get around and connect with bureaus to understand their psychology, develop that relationship. That's the room to be in. And for others, it's to get your to get your blueprint. So for today, if you send us a note on it, we're taking $500 off your ticket to Detroit. And that offer will expire at midnight. Trust me, you don't want to miss it. We're going to have an absolute blast. Let's talk about the community. So this is the new aspect, and you've heard us mention this a few times, but I want to give you a little deeper context on what this is going to look like. This will be an always on experience. What comes with the community membership? First of all, you're going to get 1 ticket to boot camp annually. So if you think about the cost, boot camp is $6,500. That is included in your membership. You get to go to one. Connor mentioned a little bit around the content library that we've built out, not just in the pre-recorded in the library in the can, but ongoing weekly virtual learning sessions. Imagine us, instead of once a month doing this, dropping in weekly, and not just a repeat of PCT, but going across a whole gamut of ways in which we go to work on our business. Quarterly flagship live events, topic specific in-person masterclasses. So we're going to move this into a place in 2023 where, we may have 2 days and do a deep dive on storytelling, and like, it's just storytelling, or it's just stagecraft, or it's how do you build out a team that, really helps you build the business. We'll go specific in some of those masterclasses. ImpactEleven partner-led forums, discussions, and panels. I'm excited about this. You saw that roster. Having somebody like Erica Dewan, who has absolutely blown up, has a keynote fee of $50,000, like teaching a masterclass on some of the content she's built around digital body language, how she's built out her business, IP content. So you're not just hearing from us; it's like you're hearing from a collection of true masters in the field. Curated library of digital downloads, methodologies, and frameworks. I'm telling you right now, for those of you who don't know Peter Sheehan and just like this collective brain trust, we have so much freaking unbelievable IP that's going to be available, like things that nobody in this business has. That again, take all of your skills, take all of your knowledge, and just like leverage a few of these things, and you're going to the moon. Unlimited access to industry research, insights, and trends. Jenny is leading a big effort right now for a big research project. Jenny, is that specifically looking at meeting planners, or is it also bureaus? Give me a little color around that research.
We are working with bureaus. So we are doing a research project in partnership with IASB and coming together to talk about all of the things that bureaus are facing right now, where they've been, where they're headed. And at the convention each year, we're going to have our ImpactEleven team led by Peter, breaking down those results and being able to look at what's going on with bureaus and where everything's at. And we'll be able to bring some of that back to you.
Super exciting. So you're talking primary research, gang, industry insight and knowledge that nobody else has. And it's just another extension of how ImpactEleven collectively is really position ourselves as a strategic advisor to the channel to be a true partner to grow this business. Last but not least, technology platform to measure your progress and support your peers. We got all sorts of fun technology, again, to help you level up. And again, I'll just, to run through this, all sorts of fun and unique things, monthly drawings for unique services, personalized insight dashboards that the 4 original founding members we use so that we can constantly see all the metrics in our business. It's like, do you know what your 12-month-old cycle is? Do you know what your close ratio is? Do you know who your top bureaus and industries are? We're able to see that in one collective dashboard at all times. It also helps from a competitive standpoint. So I know who I can razz and send a mean text message to because I'm just totally destroying them this week. But it helps us understand where the business is at because, it's like what's working, what's not. All of that is available. And this is only the beginning. Connor made this point. This is everything we hoped and dreamed and wanted in a community, but we're also want to invite you into the process. This is co-creation. This has to be our collective community. And so we're going to look for what we're going to call ambassadors, people that are going to want to lead events in their cities, contribute IP, teach. Everybody on here could absolutely teach sessions at live events. And so we do not think of you as passive participants, but active co-creators in what this is going to be, and to just be the absolute flagship program in the industry. We have priced this at what I think is an absolute no-brainer. $12,000 is going to be a $1,000 a month subscription. We want this to be something that is so valuable that you don't even think twice about it. It's like, why would I not? The level of insight, the access to the tools, the access to the frameworks, the knowledge, the network, the relationships, it's a no-brainer. This puts one extra event into my calendar a year, and hopefully this is a 10x return for you. Today, if you send us a note, we're doing full annual memberships at $9,500. Again, you can send a note to Matt on this front if you've got questions. And certainly, like, we know that I don't want to minimize that as an investment. It is an investment. But if you've got questions, you're curious, you're interested, we will make time to talk to you about it. But we want to see this community grow. That's Matt's information. Send him a note and he'll help you. And with that, I will pause. We got 3 minutes left. If anybody has any other questions, comments, wants to say something. John, Aaron, I appreciate your comments in the chat there about just the investment. Miles, yeah, can't wait to see you in Detroit. I'm so excited for us to get more time together. You're a perfect example of someone who's been on the peripheral. You've got great deep domain expertise. You can be an absolute monster in this business with just a little support, a little help, put rocket fuel in your tank, and anything's going to be possible for you. But I'll pause. If anybody has any additional questions, we can take a minute here. And if not, feel free to send us a note afterwards. And if not, I'll see y'all in Austin in December. Smiling, my man. I love it. Beautiful. That's exciting. You're going to be in Austin. Yeah. If you can't come to Detroit, like if I'm partial, I'm telling you, like, come to Austin. It's going to be a blast. I think we got all sorts of fun and exciting things planned for that trip. But certainly Detroit, that our hotel and the property in Detroit is world-class. For those of you who didn't go to our last one in June, but have gone to in the past, this is such an upgraded experience that it would be well worth it to come back. But if not, we'll see you in December. Appreciate everybody tuning in and making time. Yeah, get the sushi from across the street. Yeah, for sure, David. We appreciate you, and we can't wait to continue this conversation and dialogue in the greater community. Cheers, gang. We'll see you soon.